Hi folks, today we're going to start learning more advanced pen tool techniques. It's a tool that after you master it, you'll be able to use it in Photoshop and Illustrator. So I want you to really watch what I'm doing to get the technique of working with this tool down pat. So I'm going to have this assignment, this is posted as an exercise, not an assignment. It's going to be an exercise that you're going to do in class. And I'm going to look at them while we're meeting in class and evaluate them and help those who need extra help, okay? So the file is already set up where this image is embedded in Illustrator. And then I have set up the octopus is actually on a base layer that I've locked. And so you'll be working on layer 2 to manage that. One thing I'm going to do actually is when you work on a layer, this color corresponds to what the tools are going to be. So I'm going to click on this layer. Keep double clicking on it. There I go. Keep double clicking on this layer till I get it right. And I'm going to use this bright green. Okay. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my pen tool, and when I go up to the colors right now, it's got a fill of white and no outline. So I want to switch that so it has no outline, and I want the fill to be, let's make it a bright blue. Okay, and you may want to change the thickness of the weight, but you might not, okay? One other thing that you may want to do is, I'm going to zoom in here so you can see and you can make the decision on your own. Turning off that noise on my phone, sorry. Is how thick your line's going to be, so and how you can see it. So you can see that green line there now, and you can see how thick that blue line is. I think that doesn't need to be actually that thicker. I'm going to make it 0.75, but that will be your choice. So the big thing about using this tool is it's going to describe the curve. So you are going to put a point on one side of the curve and on the other side of the curve. You don't put it in the middle of the curve. So here we've got a curve that goes this way. So we've got one point here. I'm going to place my next point here. So I've just been moving this around, but right now I'm going to click with my finger on the mouse and drag. So see these handles come out? Those handles are not a line, okay? The only line on this right now is that blue line that we've already drawn. So when I let go of this handle here, this curve between where I am now and that blue line will show up as a blue line. Now I picked my finger up off the mouse and I go over here to the other side of this curve. I click and I drag. See the way I drag that out? Let go. Now, when I go into a tight spot, I do have to add more points. So I'm going to click one. And as I pull, see the way that curve is a little wonky? Sometimes you can't get it just right because the handle that I left from the last curve needs to be pushed back a little. So if you can't get something perfect, it's okay. You let it go. So now I'm moving my arrow in the direction that I'm going, but yet I'm looking behind me because over here is where that next line is going to show up. So I'm moving in this direction, pick my finger up, the line appears, I move to the next spot, I drag that out. So the pale green line is where my actual line is going to go, and the handles are just pulling me in a direction. See the way they're pulling that curve? I'm going to let go, put another point down and pull, another point and pull. Now when I get around a tight spot here, the best thing to do is to put one point with just a short pull, go over to the other side and do another short pull. So you get a nice curve there. I continue to go around, dragging. Now my curve, you can see, is not perfect, but don't worry because we're going to revisit that. So here I'm on the wider area, so I've got one point, put the second point over here, 1 point on either side of these curves, and I just do a gentle pull, okay? Now, and then when I connect, I lean over here and notice the way it sort of pulls it into place, and it's hard to see, but there is a little tiny, see my arrow? When I pull it back, look for a little tiny dot to appear. See a little tiny dot? No dot? Dot. So that dot appears, it means that it's actually closed this shape, okay? So what I want to show you is what you don't do. You don't click, pick up your pen, and click again without dragging. So what I'm doing, essentially, it kind of looks like I'm making a curve, but what I've got here is a series of, to let go, this will keep wanting to connect to something, keep going. To let this end, I'm going to hit the P key, and then it lets me go. So when I zoom in here, what I actually have are a series of straight lines. See, there's no curve in here. So when I redraw it with the pen tool and pull, click, pull, I'm actually getting a curve. Notice the difference there? I'm clicking and pulling. It's pretty far away over here. Moving over here. I'm going to click and pull. So you notice there's a big, and then I'm going to hit the P key to unclip that. So you can see, there's a big difference between this nice soft curve and these pieces that are straight lines. So you may be in a situation where you are working on something and you go from a curve to a straight line. Say, for example, you're working down here and you start here, you have your point, you're describing your curve, and you get over to here, and then you have a little curve here, but from here to here is a straight line. So instead of putting my finger on the mouse and dragging, I am going to Command Z and get rid of that dot. I am just going to go straight out here. Now the difference is I am not holding down my mouse key with my finger. I'm just going right out there and I click and I get a straight line. So now I'm going to click and pull this time with my finger on the mouse. So I know it's hard, you can't see my finger on the mouse, but trust me, I'm clicking, my finger's still on the mouse, and I'm dragging the mouse. Drag, drag, let go. Put my point over here, click and drag, which is very different than just clicking. And again, you hit the P key and it releases. Okay, so what I want you to do are to draw one to two of these tentacles, okay? Now, as I described before, you might have some jaggedy spots. So you're going to be able to go and fix those afterwards, okay? Now, the pen tool, and make sure you're using the tool that's shaped like this pen, and it says pen tool when you hover over it. Do not use the curvature tool. That's a different tool. It doesn't work the same way. We're going to do the pen tool. So after I'm done drawing my shape, I'm going to go to the white arrow. I am going to hover. See that little tiny pink word that says path? That tells me that I'm on the path. Off the path, on the path, off the path, on the path. And the path also highlights with that green line in there. See that? So I need to click on the line and then all my points show up. So now if I were to use the black arrow and click on this, what happens is it's moving the whole object, and we don't want to do that. We want to just move the points. So white arrow, I'm going to zoom in here. I'm going to click on the path, and then I can go in and I can move these handles around. I can also pick up and move a dot if it's not properly placed. So this one, see the way this handle is very close to this one? If the handles actually overlap, you get sort of a kink. It's like a kink in the hose, I guess, or something, in your garden hose. So, sorry, the cat. One of the hazards of teaching from home. Doesn't happen in the classroom very often. So I pull the handles to modify it, or I can pull the point out. I've got this snapping action happening here, so you can always go into view and unsnap if you've got snap selected there, okay? So I do a little bit of clicking on a point to get the handles, and then I go and I do simple modifications. This one, I feel like this handle is too long, so that this handle over here can still affect this curve too. See the way that happens? So sometimes it's the close handle, sometimes it's the handle coming from the other direction. And I guess I knew that because when I looked at this, I saw that this handle was quite long. Here I feel like there's a little kink here, so I may pull this handle out a little bit more to soften that kink, or maybe I move this back a little bit. This one has a little bit of a unnatural bend in there. And then for this point here, if you want to make it a little pointier, you drag these points straight out. And I'm going to move this one in a little and play with that curve. Okay, so you can go on modifying these forever. But again, one more time, just to show you, you click, drag, click, drag, click, drag. So the line, there's no line over here. It's what's happening behind me. So it's a little hard to see, but there's this green curve behind me. And so when I click, nothing happens, but when I let go, that line shows up. So nothing's happening until I go to the next spot to click. Again, it's a little persnickety at first. It's going to take a while, but I want you to practice. One more thing. So when you go in here too, another thing that you might realize is, say you had too many points. On this tool, you can add points just by clicking, or you can delete points if you have too many points. So if you went around and you were drawing your shape and you did lots of little curves, so there's still curves, they're not straight lines, but there's too many of them. And what can happen is when you try to go fix it, there's just a lot of little kinks. You don't need this many points. And see how close the handles are to each other? You totally don't need that point. You can just go up here, get that, and hit delete on that point. Okay? Delete the extra points. And then you can also go in here, and if you don't have that point when you need one, this pulls out the points and pulls out the points. So if you accidentally did this, where you went curve, 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 and then you clicked and you didn't pull out that curve accidentally, curve, 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 you can go back in with this tool and you can pull out handles, okay? Because right now there's no handle to pull on this. So you use this tool to pull out that handle. See this kink right here? I know that kink is from two crossed bars because there was no point there. So I knew that's why that kink was happening. Okay, I think you're good to go then. So reminder, this white arrow, you hover over the line, and these are the tools that you'll help to modify it. You're clicking back and forth between these two. Good luck.